Welcome to the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I'm Deborah Herlax-Enos, a small-town girl turned TV nutritionist and healthy living expert. I design health programs for the average guy or gal, including those average guys named Metallica. On September 1st, 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I asked every oncologist the same question, why did I get cancer? But none of my doctors had good answers for me. I wanted answers, and that's why I started this podcast. I want to help you to lower your cancer risk and provide self-care tips for those in the battle. I'm getting answers, and I want to share them with you. Thanks for joining me for part 2 of my conversation with Dr. Josh Axe. He's a clinical nutritionist and a doctor of natural medicine. Last week, we took a really deep dive about the year that he has had, the dark season he was in. He couldn't walk for an entire year. And so he used that time very creatively to write his new book called Think This and Not That. Join us today as we talk a lot about mindset and how important the mind is in healing the body. Enjoy.
One of the things I talked about in the book, right before I wrote this book, I had a crippling accident that really shook our whole family. So a lot of people don't know this if they followed me, but I went in, I hurt my back years ago, weightlifting, and I've always been very active. And I'd gotten it back to about 90% better. So I was swimming and running and weightlifting, doing everything I wanted, but I still had this nagging issue in my back sometimes after sitting too long or like on airplanes. And I thought, well, I'm going to go in and get some stem cell done, which is a natural therapy. I had it done before, which really helped. And I thought, if I get it done one more time, I'll probably get my back to 100%. Well, they went in and did the procedure, and something went wrong. And I didn't know it at the time. Afterwards, I thought, well, my back still hurts. It's worse than normal, but it kept getting worse and worse and worse. Finally, after about 3 months, one morning I woke up, I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk at all. And so we had to call an ambulance. They drove me in to get an MRI. I was in Puerto Rico at the time. Then I had to be taken on a medical flight. And of course, I've got my 3-year-old and she's crying, like, what's happening with that?
Terrified.
Yeah. And then flew me to Florida, and the infectious disease specialist, I'm sitting down with him, and he said, well, I'm not sitting down. I was laying down. I literally couldn't even sit. The pain was so bad. And he said, Josh, I said, I asked him kind of what the prognosis was. He said, best case scenario, you live with pain, and anytime the weather comes through, you'll be the first to know. Like, that was his exact words. I thought that was, wow. And he's like, worst case, you're going to be permanently disabled. This could get into your spinal cord, and you couldn't, you wouldn't be able to walk anymore. And that was tough because the infection had gotten into my bone. It was in my disc, in my vertebra. There was an abscess on my spinal cord. And so, I didn't receive that message, but I thought I need to do everything I can to heal. And so I did a conventional treatment for a short time, 4 weeks. And at the same time, and most of the time, the treatment I had is just an IV antibiotic, but most of the time you'd have to be on it 12 weeks, some sort of antibiotic. So I was able to do it just 4 weeks. I got in a hyperbaric chamber for 2 hours a day. I got vitamin IVs. I only ate pretty much vegetables, berries, and a little bit of like meat and bone broth. Like, that's all I ate. Did herb supplements. And still, it took me a long time to get better. It actually, even after a couple of weeks, I wasn't getting better. And finally, I got like 1% better in a week. And I thought, okay, well, this is the first time I'm moving in the right direction. But the pain was so bad, I literally couldn't even roll on my side. I could only crawl. And I didn't walk for a year.
Oh, my God.
I didn't walk for a full year. And then learning to walk again was, and by the way, let me just say this. The reason I bring that up is I wrote this book, Think This, Not That, while I was in that position, because it's really, there were emotions, Deborah, I'd never experienced before. I'd never experienced true anxiety. I'd never experienced despair or hopelessness. Because imagine you go to a doctor, they tell you may never walk again, when this wasn't even your fault. I had a medical procedure done that was natural, shouldn't have been any issue.
Right.
And then getting to the point to where knowing, well, what if I don't walk again? What if I can't? Just months ago, I was throwing my 2-year-old, 3-year-old daughter in the air, and I can't do that now. So I had about 24 hours where I really just felt terrible. And the next morning I woke up and I just prayed, and I thought, you know what? This isn't serving me, having this mindset. And I know the reality of something called neuroplasticity, and that is your belief really matters. If you believe you will heal, your brain will actually start creating new neural pathways, creating new nerve tissue, sending new new stem cells and growth factors to actually heal and repair the area. So I read a study on visualization with this. So I would visualize that area of my spine healing. I would
Oh,
visualizing all the nutrients being sent there. I would then well up with emotion thinking about, because you're supposed to do this, what my ideal future would look like. So me throwing my, baby girl up in the air again,
oh,
playing with her,
yeah.
doing those things. And then I just put the strategy in place. But if you're in a position where you don't feel well and you're sick,
Mm-hmm.
you need to go through this process of visualizing what does your ideal future look like,
That is so
connecting
good.
it to your emotion, and then creating the plan to get there. And I really think that'll help people experience a breakthrough. But again, yeah, I wrote this. I had somebody ask me, they said, what did you do when you didn't walk for the year? And I said, well, I spent more time with my family. Like, I couldn't go
Mhm.
out and play with my daughter, but I could watch Peppa Pig or Paw Patrol with her in bed, so I would do
Right.
that.
You could
I
read her
spent
a
more
book.
time with
Yep.
God. I spent time writing this
Mhm.
book. And he was like, I would have been drinking Mountain Dew and eating Cheetos. I'm like, well, you know what? And this is the power of purpose as well. When you've got a purpose,
Mhm.
it really, really is powerful. And so anyway, so I put all that in the book, Think This, Not That. And I hope if anybody needs a breakthrough in their life, I think it's really a great resource for you to experience a breakthrough. And it helped me, all the principles in the book.
Right. So you really turned your terrible pain into purpose.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my
So
mom did the same thing. It was amazing. My
Mhm.
mom able to see her battle with breast. So the first time my mom had cancer, she followed a conventional method.
Mhm.
And afterwards, she was still very sick. She was diagnosed the second time. This is right before I opened up my functional medicine clinic in Nashville.
Mhm.
And she called me and told me, and I went home, we prayed together, we talked about it, and we decided we were going to take care of her all naturally. Well, we did an all natural approach where we really worked on her mindset, meditation,
Wow.
prayer, praise, gratitude. Her
Mhm.
diet consisted of mostly vegetables. We juiced vegetables, did raw, did steamed. She did some vegetable juice. And then we did, a little bit of meat like wild salmon and bone broth and
Mhm.
some berries. And that was pretty much her whole diet.
Yeah.
And after that protocol and working on her mindset and her food and lifestyle, her cancer reversed after 4 months. The doctor said, this is highly unusual. We don't typically see this, but tumors have shrunk in half. But all that being said, like my mom now will like
Wow.
teach people how to make superfood smoothies and how to juice vegetables. And so like she's turned her pain into purpose by helping other women who
Right.
are battling cancer. And it definitely
Right.
can be used for that.
And it's an inspiration. And when you're walking through that, unless you have somebody in your life or you've seen somebody on YouTube or online who can teach you about this mindset, it's really hard to get there. I mean,
Yeah.
going back to,
Yeah.
when you got that A+ on that paper and you had a mindset reset,
Yeah.
if that person hadn't been there to do that for you, how long could you have been in that, ugly space of overthinking and, I'm not enough and I'm not smart enough and all of those things. And
And this
so,
this is why
yeah.
everyone listening to this today,
Mhm.
I feel like there's less in-person mentorship now and
Mhm.
encouragement than maybe there was even in the past. Now, I think a lot of times people have there's positives and negatives. I think there's a great positive in that, like I'm able to learn from some people I just really respect now. Like I've always loved John Maxwell and learning from him on leadership
Mhm.
qualities, and I'm able to learn from just some amazing, amazing people,
Right.
But at the same time, maybe people are less apt to connect with a local mentor and build an actually real relationship with that person.
Mhm.
And I had more of that growing up, I would say. But because of that, I try and be more proactive like I was growing up to do that for people. And so one of the things I challenge everybody to do is mentor somebody, disciple somebody, help somebody. And one of the
Yep.
great things, here's a practice that I do. I call it ICNU. And so I will go, and I have a men's group I do this with. And I had somebody tell me this. One guy is incredibly talented. If I said his name, you'd recognize him. He's a really well-known former NFL player. And
Mhm.
he's a little younger than me, though. And I went around to all the men in the group and I just put my hand on their shoulder and I said, this is what I see in you. Here's your gifts. Here's your talents. Here's what you're great at. God has blessed you with this. And
Mhm.
I got emails from those guys later and text messages just saying, wow, I'd never had anybody do that for me in my life. And that
Mhm.
was essentially a very similar thing that a teacher did for me. And I think about how powerful that is to have a parent or a coach or a
Yep.
mentor or a friend put their hand on you, on your shoulder and say, hey, and look you in the eyes and say, you are great at this. God has gifted you with this, you know? And so if somebody were to start doing that with somebody at once a week, their life would change too. Like I found it changed my life when I started telling people I see in you. I mean, it's probably the quintessential quality of leadership, I would say, is you're going out there and showing somebody a brighter future that they have, helping them tap into their potential, helping them see it. Because I think a lot of people have trouble seeing it. And we're not designed to only most people aren't designed to believe in themselves that way if they haven't had at least one other person call it out in them.
Yep. And I think God really called all of us to be encouragers of each other. And, you know, when I see somebody at a coffee shop and, you know, they doing a great job, I really compliment them and thank you. You just made my day. That's such a beautiful latte. Or, you know, and now my husband and I are actually doing it with each other. And I'll say, because God has really given my husband the gift of generosity, and I'll call that out in him. And so we every day now say, wow, you know what I see in you? God has really blessed you with, you know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's fun to do that on a level with my husband that then it changes our day. And then we end up doing that just with random people we run into during the day or with our employees. I mean, it's really beautiful. And every day when I'm in my prayer time, I'll ask God to just show me how I can be generous today.
So good.
And that is one of the ways is just saying kind and nice things to people and calling out a strength that I see in them.
Yeah. You know, one thing, Deborah, I think that's important too is everybody should go and do what we're sharing. Do the I see in you. I see this in you. This is the positive quality. This is the thing I see. But if you're not getting that yourself as well, either way you should do it, whether you're getting it yourself or not. But you need to be getting that too. And if you're not, you need to oftentimes change your inner circle. I've had probably 2 to 3 times in my life where I realized I need a different inner circle. I need iron sharpens iron. I want to grow. I want to live my best life possible. I want to do things that matter. And I had to step away from sometimes even good relationships into great. And so I would also say, be really conscious about your inner circle. I mean, this is something I touch on in chapter 6 of the book, is how to cultivate this community of iron sharpens iron, of encouragement, of growth. And it's so important. And so I really try and think about, who are 5 people that I'm spending the most time with? They say you become like those you spend the most time with. And so really thinking about who are those people you need to start moving out of your life, and who are those people you need to start pursuing and creating a community with that are going to help you in that way, and you're going to help them in that way. And so that's another thing I think that's so important is that, you know, and I think some people lost that over COVID. I think that, you know, it really sort of created a lot of separation, COVID did, from people. And I think right now, people are realizing, well, we need to get back together. We need to build community in order to live the best life possible.
Hey everyone, a lot of you have been asking me about the products I use on my face. I've never been one to get a lot of compliments on my skin, but I tell you, since I switched over to this product, it's been about 10 years now, I get so many compliments on my skin, and I want to keep that going. So Body Deli is what I use. It's a small company out of Palm Springs, California. They grow a lot of their own produce that they then end up turning into products for your face. Non-toxic. I mean, honestly, my skin just eats it up. So there's a couple of products that I absolutely love. I've tagged them in the show notes. One is the Phoenix Skin and Neck Oil. I mean, I'm at that age. I need to focus on these things. And I tell you, if I don't use this every night, my skin gets so dry. And then the vitamin C serum, I tell you, whenever I put it on my skin, I feel like it's just like taking this amazing vitamin, and my skin just looks better. I get compliments, as I said. My skin kind of just, you know, glows even when I'm not wearing makeup. So I'm a huge fan of Body Deli. Again, the link is in the show notes. Use the code ENOS15 and get 15% off of your purchase. Again, one of my favorite companies, and I hope you enjoy the products as much as I do. About me, I like doing dishes. I actually do. It gives me an immediate sense of accomplishment, which I absolutely love. But I have been struggling trying to find the right non-toxic or at least low tox detergent for my dishwasher and for my sink, or for doing dishes by hand. So probably my favorite one that I found is from a company called Young Living, and it's called Thieves. They have a powdered for your dishwasher and a liquid for your sink. And I don't know how they do it and make it so good and so low tox, but I am a huge fan. And especially when it comes to my dishwasher, if I'm going to start rinsing everything off the dishes, I might as well just go ahead and keep doing the dishes, right? So what I love about it is the dishes can be a little bit junky, maybe not super junky, like 2 days of eggs on it, but a little bit junky. I could put it in the dishwasher, use my Thieves from Young Living powder detergent, and it gets it clean. So I've got all the information in the show notes. And if you use the code SHAREYL, you actually get 10% off of your first order of $50. Happy dishwashing. Yeah, we're really missing community. And community is, community can, if you look at the Blue Zones data, community can add 7 great years to your life. And I think about people who are home all day and maybe they're elderly or they're injured or whatever it is. And they don't have people in their lives who are speaking positive, wonderful things into their life. But it can happen. It can happen. But we do have to go for it. We have to be wanting to make those changes to surround ourselves with those people.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were in your really dark season, which is really like in the last year and a half with
a little over a year ago.
A little over a year ago, there had to be some really dark days. You have a small child, you've got a wife, you probably need help going to the bathroom and getting dressed and even showering. How did that impact your relationships?
Well, I think first off, I have the best wife ever. She's awesome. And she is such an encouragement and has so much wisdom. And so if I was having a hard time, she would sit down with me, we'd pray together, and she would just speak life over me and encourage me. And so that was such a blessing. Yeah, I pretty much crawled everywhere. That's the one thing I could do is just crawl. So I would crawl to the pool and get in, or the bathroom, wherever. And then I did my best. But yeah, having her was such an encourager. I actually grew close to my parents. My parents came and helped out some, and they're in their 70s. But it was really good being able to spend time with them for that really hard season. And so I was really conscious of that, getting around just some really, really great people, my family especially. And they were, all just did everything they could to support me. So that was really, really, really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just, that will be with you for the rest of your life. And it ends up being a blessing to your people too.
Yeah, I think my mom enjoyed the time. My mom was in her 70s. I'm in my 40s, right? So she hadn't taken care of me in years, and so
a long time.
As a mom, she got to do it again, and so that was fun. And you know what? My mindset through this, I think that, and I think a big part of this is because of my faith. But I think as I was going through that, it would have been very easy for me to just live in a state of victimhood of, woe is me. Why did this happen to me? This is unfair. Because you could look up online, the chance of this happening is like 1 in 200,000 to 1 million. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And so I could have lived in that mindset, but instead what I decided was, and I prayed this, I said, God, I don't want to help me grow through this. Like I don't want to waste this. Sometimes when we go through hard things in life, it's easy to just say, I can't wait for the season to be over. And that's true. I couldn't wait for it to be over. But I also said, I don't want to waste this time, because I really believe that I can grow as a person. And so I think I'm more compassionate now and empathetic than I've ever been. I think I have a lot more wisdom on what are priorities, what really matters. I mean, I told Chelsea this, at one point I said, even if we were blessed to have such a nice house and other things. I said, but even if we didn't own a house and we had to live in this tiny apartment and it was just you, me, and Arwen, our daughter, I said, I'd be good. That's all I need. And so I think that when we go through hard seasons, if we can have the perspective and go through them with gratitude and praise, knowing that, this thing will be used for our good. Because that's a choice. You can either waste it and go through it grumpily and be a victim and make everyone else around you miserable, or you can go through, my parents said this to me several times. I had a lot of people say this. They said, I really was blown away by how positive and faith driven you were through that situation.
Yeah.
And I was thoughtful about that, because here's the other thing. Like, I thought about myself as I was going through it a little bit, but in terms of like, I need this for myself to heal.
Mm-hmm.
But I also thought about, I have a 2 and she was turning 3-year-old daughter watching me go through this. And I thought, well, at some point in her life, it's inevitable. She's going to go through something hard. Could be anything.
Yeah.
And she's going to learn how to deal with hard things, by watching me. So I think I was aware of that too. And I think I'm just, and I think this level of, you mentioned this actually at the very beginning of our interview, but self-awareness is a really important key to healing and being healthy and all you can be. When you look at the people that are the most self-aware, it tends to be people that are more of like, I think about like spiritual mystics. It could be, or just people that are very spiritually driven. I think about, could be a pastor, could be a monk, could be a rabbi, could be a priest. I don't know. They tend to have this sort of serene calmness about them, right? And a very level of self-awareness and other awareness and what's going on in the world. And so I think that sort of, but I was very aware of my emotions, what was creeping up, what was going on, the way that I acted and responded to something, how that impacts others. And that's another thing that's actually in chapter 3 in the book, because I learned all the things, a lot of that I learned through this. I really went through that self-awareness piece, and that's a form of emotional intelligence. And actually for success, there's studies that show, loads of them, that emotional intelligence, known as your EQ, is more important than your IQ if you're going to have good relationships, successful at work, health breakthroughs, any of those. That self-awareness and emotional intelligence is more important than your actual, knowledge, IQ intelligence.
Which seems so contrary, but when you dig down deep, of course that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you experienced this, but I got really mad at God for about 3 days.
Yeah.
Because I'd lived this lifestyle. I've been a certified nutritionist. I've got a degree in health science and exercise physiology. I've done all the things. And I got really mad for 3 days and wouldn't talk to him. I thought I was really, like showing him. And I'm a woman of great faith, but those 3 days were the hardest of the entire cancer season. And then when I found out I had to have a mastectomy, I was talking to one of my friends, Deanne, and she's part of my spiritual advisor team. There's a group of 5 of us women. We meet every Wednesday from 12 to 1. We talk about what's going on in our lives. We pray for each other. We text each other. I even texted them this morning. I said, I'm talking to Dr. Axe. I want your prayers, no technical difficulties, all of those things. Bless this conversation. And I said to her, Deanne, I'm a good person. I donate my time and I do all these things. Why is this happening? And she said, it sounds like you have a transactional relationship with God. And I went, oh, you're right. So my thoughts were, if I do good, everything's going to be good. He's just going to bless me. And yes, I'm getting blessed, but I'm getting blessed in a way, in his way, not my way. And so now I have this amazing podcast he's blessed me with, and it's my ministry. It's my passion project. Did you ever go through anything like that where you just kind of were mad at God for this happening?
Yeah. And again, I was aware of this, that I was actually mad at a lot of people. I think I was mad at God for not protecting me. Now, I don't believe that God did this. Cause it, but I obviously I think that he has the power to keep things from happening. I had to forgive myself, because I'm like, why did I go in the first place? I was fine. I didn't really have to have that done. I had to forgive the doctor who did the procedure.
Yeah.
So I had to forgive a lot of people, including God, including myself. It was, and I do feel like after a few days, I was able to really work through that and pray through that and say, God, forgive me for not forgiving you, but yeah, that definitely happened. One of the other things too, it causes me to also, like, I think my perspective has been, though, as well, is that, our time here on earth is like a speck of sand on an endless timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And if I think about that and think about, okay, God, how could this be used for good? That's the thing I would just really try and think through.
Yep.
How can this be used for good? And we know that there's treasures in heaven. We know that there's eternity. We know that there's life beyond this that's going to go on way, way, way longer than this. And so knowing that, I think is helpful. And also knowing I can't flourish without him, and so but yeah, that definitely is a reality. The last chapter of this book, I really get into this story even in greater detail, all the things, and then how I was able to really the mindset I had and the ways that exercises I did and the things I worked through to build a more resilient mindset and to have a different perspective on this and actually use it for good. And so that was, it was, and I already see God using it, I already see him using it for good. And so that's encouraging.
Yeah. And just the biggest blessing, because you went through something dark. I went through something dark. And here we are talking about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to be listening. And, I look at each day as, wow, if I could bless somebody by the time I get into bed that night, that's a good day. And I feel like, this conversation has been such a blessing to me, and it's going to just be such a blessing to others. So I just thank you so much for having this conversation today and sharing your heart with us.
Well, Deborah, it was an honor to be on. And thanks so much for having me. And thank you so much also for letting me share not only my personal journey and some health tips, but also about the book. Again, I really wrote it because I wanted to help people heal. I started talking about mindset medicine because I think it's the most important part of us healing is not just the food and some of the other things, it's our mindset. And so, and also I wanted people to be able to be blessed by this. And so if people go to joshax.com, you can buy the book there. And when you do, you're going to get hundreds of dollars of other free stuff, I think up until sometime in April or May. And so if you go on there, you get a mindset masterclass. That's worth $200. You get the workbook for free. You get these amazing, all kinds of stuff, video trainings. And we have bonus interviews with people, including Dave Ramsey and
love him.
And John Deloney's a psychologist.
Okay.
Just some amazing people. So anyways, I hope it really
great.
blesses everybody. Rebecca Lyons is another one. But anyways, we have all those bonus interviews people will get if they go to joshax.com or to Amazon. But again, thanks so much for having me. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I can't wait to read the book. And it sounds like that would even be a fun, watching the videos with your spouse.
Oh, totally. And I was going to just say, so here, if you're watching on video, here's the book, Think This, Not That, 12 Mind Shifts to help you break through limiting beliefs and create a breakthrough in your life. And so anyways, I hope everybody
that's great.
Enjoys it. But Deborah, again, thanks so much for having me and your incredible podcast here.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Axe. Great chatting with you. I'm a big fan of protein. Yep. You've listened to this podcast before. I'm a big fan of protein. I grew up on a farm, and I had access to great healthy sources of protein that we grew ourselves for the most part. So I want to talk to you today about chicken thighs. I'm a huge fan of chicken thighs. I like chicken breasts too, but there's just not a lot of flavor to them. I love chicken thighs because they have a higher fat content than chicken breasts. So for me, what that means is if I have protein with a higher fat content, it keeps me fuller longer. If I stay fuller longer, then that also means I'm not snacking. I work from home, so it is really easy for me to go into the kitchen and be snacking for a good chunk of the afternoon. So if I have a chicken thigh at lunch, it's a fantastic way for me to go. It keeps me fuller longer. Here's the other thing I like about chicken thighs is the serving size is just about perfect for somebody my size. For my husband, he might eat 1.5 or maybe even 2. But for me, 1 is enough. It's, it's a really great size for me. So let me tell you about the Butcher Box deal right now on chicken thighs. It's actually choose your own protein. You could choose chicken thighs, steak tips, or ground beef. But you could get free chicken thighs, 3 pounds of them in your box every month. And you could do that for an entire year or just do it for a couple of months. Use the code ENOS, all lowercase, ENOS. The link is in the show notes to go to the Butcher Box website and figure out what you're going to put in your first box. Anyway, I hope you enjoy these chicken thighs as much as I do. It's probably one of my favorite go-to proteins. You can put them in a crock pot, cast iron skillet, or even put them on the barbecue. Oh, and I just got a Blackstone, so that's what I'm going to try out this weekend. I'll keep you posted. Enjoy.
Thank you for joining me today on the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I've got my shopping guide for all of my cancer self-care items in the show notes, along with information about today's guest and our show sponsors. And don't forget to subscribe to my podcast so you never miss an episode. Keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a gal that got diagnosed with cancer and wanted answers. If you need medical advice, please be sure to consult with a medical professional. And thank you for listening.